Metallica almost destroyed itself. Not once, not twice, but over and over again. And the scariest part, most fans only know the success story. From the outside, Metallica looks untouchable, the biggest metal band in the world. Sold out stadiums, legendary albums. But behind that image was chaos. Band members fired, friendships broken, addiction, egos, and the moment that should have ended everything. This wasn't a band climbing to the top. This was a band constantly fighting not to fall apart. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Metallica didn't survive because everything went right. They survived because everything went wrong. And somehow, they kept going. This is not the story you usually hear. This is the story behind the legend. Metallica didn't start as a band. They started as an ad in a newspaper. Literally. In 1981, drummer Lars Ulrich placed a small classified ad looking for musicians who liked bands like Diamond Head, Motorhead, and Iron Maiden. One guy answered, James Hetfield, not because he was confident or because he thought this would go anywhere, but because he didn't really have anything else going on. From the very beginning, Metallica had one defining feature: chaos. They didn't have money, they didn't have proper equipment, they didn't even have a stable lineup. What they did have was obsession. James and Lars weren't trying to be famous. They were trying to be louder, faster, and heavier than everyone around them. And that already made them a problem. What often gets ignored in early Metallica stories is James Hetfield himself. At the beginning, James wasn't the frontman. He wasn't even sure he wanted to sing. He stood to the side of the microphone, head down, barely speaking between songs. Lars handled the talking, the planning, the ambition. James handled the weight. Growing up with loss, instability, and a deep distrust of authority shaped the way he approached music. He didn't lead by speeches, he led by endurance. And that created a strange imbalance. Metallica had a leader who didn't want to lead, and a drummer who absolutely did. That tension would define the band for decades. Enter Dave Mustaine, brilliant guitarist, explosive personality, and completely uncontrollable. Dave didn't just write riffs. He brought speed, aggression, and a level of intensity Metallica didn't have yet. But he also brought alcohol, drugs, and violence. Arguments weren't rare, they were routine. At one point, Mustaine poured beer into Ron McGovney's bass pickups. Another time, physical fights broke out over riffs. This wasn't rock star drama. This was a band on the edge of self-destruction before their first album even existed. In 1983, Metallica made a decision that should have ended the band. They fired Dave Mustaine. Not in a meeting, not in a conversation. They woke him up, put him on a bus, and sent him home. Without warning, goodbye, or future. Dave later described those 4 days on the bus as pure rage and humiliation. And here's the thing most people forget. At that moment, Metallica was nobody. No label, no audience, no safety net. They had just kicked out their lead guitarist and didn't even have a replacement yet. Kirk Hammett didn't join Metallica because of destiny. He joined because he happened to be available. Originally, Kirk was playing in Exodus, another Bay Area band. When Metallica asked him to learn their entire set in days, he did. And suddenly, Metallica had a new sound. Less chaotic, more precise. Still aggressive, but controlled. This wasn't just a lineup change, it was a survival move. Recording Kill 'Em All was not a victory lap. It was rushed, underfunded, and constantly threatened by collapse. The label didn't even want the original title. Metal Up Your Ass was considered problematic, so they renamed it Kill 'Em All, partly as a joke, partly as middle finger to everyone telling them to slow down. Nobody expected this album to matter, and yet, it quietly rewrote the rules. The band didn't rise because the scene welcomed them. They rose despite it. The early Bay Area metal scene was competitive, territorial, and brutal. Bands shared gear, but also sabotaged stories. Metallica was faster than most, heavier than most, and unapologetically aggressive. That didn't earn them respect. It earned them enemies. They were accused of being too extreme, too sloppy, and too hostile. But while other bands polished their image, Metallica kept sharpening their sound. They weren't trying to fit in, they were trying to overwhelm. And slowly, audiences started noticing something uncomfortable. Metallica wasn't just different, they were undeniable. They broke every rule. They were too fast, too aggressive, and too unfriendly. Radio didn't want them. Labels didn't understand them. And internally, they were still barely holding together. Any of these things should have ended the band, but all of these issues combined, it should have been nearly impossible. Here's another myth worth killing. Early success did not stabilize Metallica. It made things worse. More shows meant more pressure. More travel meant more exhaustion. More attention meant more cracks showing. The band survived because conflict became normal. Arguments weren't signs of failure. They were fuel. And instead of resolving them, Metallica learned to function inside them. Sure, it's not healthy, but it was effective. And dangerously addictive. Metallica survived not because they were united, but because they refused to quit. They argued, fought, and replaced members. But they kept moving forward. Not smoothly, not gracefully, just forward. And that's the part most legends leave out. Legends aren't born finished. They're unstable, messy, and often bad decision away from disappearing completely. Metallica didn't just survive chaos, they were shaped by it. Once the world started singing along to their songs, the problems didn't disappear. They simply changed shape. Because success didn't bring peace, it brought more pressure. From the outside, everything looked solid. Sold-out arenas, massive record sales, global recognition. But inside, life became more complicated than it had ever been before. Money removed certain worries, but introduced new ones. Decisions suddenly mattered more. Every album wasn't just art anymore. It was expectation. And expectations have weight. One of the first real cracks didn't appear on stage. It appeared in silence. The long tours, the endless studio sessions, the moments when conversations stopped being honest and started being careful. That's when tension becomes dangerous. Creative differences grew sharper. Some wanted to push further into new territory. Others wanted to protect the sound that built everything in the first place. And no matter which decision was chosen, someone felt left behind. At the same time, life outside the band started pulling harder. Different lifestyles, different ways of coping with pressure, and different limits. What once felt like brotherhood slowly turned into negotiation. One of the most painful turning points came when a key member finally stepped away. Not because of failure and not because of lack of success, but because staying had become impossible on a personal level. The message was clear. You can survive the world and still lose yourself in the process. And then came the part no one was prepared for. Internal battles that couldn't be resolved with louder amplifiers or tighter riffs. Issues that required something unfamiliar. Honesty, vulnerability, and outside help. For the first time, simply playing music together wasn't enough. Fans, meanwhile, weren't just listening, they were watching. Every change was judged, every decision questioned. Some felt betrayed, others defended every move. And suddenly, the distance between the stage and the audience felt wider than ever before. Ironically, the louder the applause became, the more fragile everything felt behind the scenes. Success didn't fix the cracks, it made them impossible to ignore. This was the story of a band that almost destroyed itself before the world even noticed. And there are many more like it. Some survived, some didn't. There are many more stories like this. Bands that weren't supposed to work, sounds that weren't supposed to last. And we'll be exploring them right here, every Thursday on Toxic Pearl.